it's really quite unprecedented, I think, to have this number of vaccines in development for one infection. So you won't believe this, but we have 129 different vaccine candidates in some phase of clinical development, which means they've entered into testing in humans, and another 194 which are in preclinical development. Now so over 300, but 129 of them more advanced. Now this covers the entire range of technologies from, the older technologies like inactivated vaccines and live attenuated vaccines to the new technologies like mRNA, DNA, viral vectored, virus-like particles, and so on. Also the subunit protein vaccines, which come with an adjuvant. So that's something very new this time, that we have so many different platforms being used to develop vaccines. Secondly, we've also seen a number of different adjuvants. Adjuvants are materials which are added, usually inactivated viral vaccines, to stimulate the immune response better. So we've used a number of vaccines have used different adjuvants like matrix M and imidaclinilenes, which have been used in Covaxin, for example. The third is that different delivery techniques are being tried. So not just the regular intramuscular injection, but we have intradermal, subcutaneous, that's under the skin, but also intranasal and oral vaccines. So we have a bunch of, all of these are what we call second generation vaccines. They're still in development. I'm sure some of them will prove to be very safe and efficacious, and others may not. So they do need to go through the phases of clinical trials before we know which of them is going to work better. And yes, and some of them may have advantages. Clearly, if you have an oral vaccine or an intranasal vaccine, this is easier to deliver than an injectable. If you have a single dose vaccine, that's definitely preferable to multi-dose. If you have a vaccine that can be stored at room temperature or in ordinary fridge, that's better than having a vaccine that requires -20 or -70. So ultimately, we'll be able to choose the ones that are most appropriate. There was huge interest, there was huge investment. Many companies, many governments, many biotechs, academics started working on COVID vaccines, which is why I think we see so many. It's going to pay off, because if not for COVID, we're going to use these platforms for other infections in the future. So I think all of the science that's going on now is really going to be very useful. And it's not like the current vaccines are not good or not effective, but like I said, there could be advantages to some of the second generation vaccines. And we might also find that the mix and match approach or heterologous approach, where you take a booster, for example, with one of the newer vaccines that's being developed, maybe an intranasal one, or some other vaccine may come up. So I think this is a very positive development to see so much of research going on. This is fantastic. And I think ultimately we will have a range of vaccines to choose from, and different ones may suit different country contexts as well. So I think it will be good to have that choice. And cost, it will be a factor. Hopefully some of them will be really, really affordable. So what happens is that when vaccines are being developed, they go through clinical trials, and at that time, whatever variant is circulating in those populations is what you get the results against. So this happened for several of the early vaccines that were tested when Alpha was circulating around the world, the Alpha variant. But other vaccines which were tested later actually had data on the Delta variant. So what happens is that once a vaccine is approved and put out for use, then we also collect what is called the vaccine effectiveness data. So once it's being used in larger populations, governments are actually collecting data both on effectiveness, that is, how much do they prevent infection, how much do they prevent hospitalization and death, and they're also collecting, obviously, safety information, which is also we are interested in collecting on larger numbers of people, because the initial trials are done on 20, 30,000 people. But then when it's given to millions of people, you can really find out if there are some rare side effects. So both are important. And in that process, we generate information on vaccine effectiveness against different variants. So that's how we know now that the Delta variant, that most of the vaccines are still very effective in preventing against severe disease, hospitalization, and death, but are less effective in preventing somebody from getting infected. And I think this sometimes confuses people because they say, why should we get vaccinated if we're then going to get infected? Well, you may still get infected, though there is protection against infection, but not as high. But if you get infected, the chances of your getting sick are much, much, much lower if you're vaccinated. And many, many studies around the world have confirmed this. And so the other thing we're doing, and vaccine developers are doing, is to see if they can actually tweak their vaccines. Can they modify their vaccines to face a threat with a future variant? Luckily for us so far, whatever variants we've seen, the vaccines are still working against them, the currently approved vaccines. But we don't know in the future if there'll be a variant which becomes not responsive to this vaccine. So the companies and developers are already working, scientists are working to make sure that they can actually quickly change their vaccines to incorporate a new variant. And WHO is working with developers and scientists, but also with regulators to see how such a new modified vaccine could be quickly approved. So I think the world is ready and gearing up. We've done this for influenza in the past because, as you know, we have a new influenza vaccine every year based on the composition of circulating strains of flu. So something like that may be needed for COVID. We have to be prepared. At this point, we're not sure if we will need it or not. If we're lucky, then the same vaccines will continue to work against all variants. I could confidently describe vaccines as the greatest innovation of the 20th century. So we're incredibly lucky, and we should make full use of them so that we can bring this pandemic to an end. We can stop people dying. We still have 50,000 people a week dying, unfortunately, and majority of them are unvaccinated. I saw some comments that, vaccinated people are also in the hospital and they're also dying. Yes, when majority of people in a country are vaccinated, some of them will get the infection, some of them. So none of the vaccines are 100%. Nobody's ever claimed that the vaccines are going to be 100% protective. But 90% is a wonderful amount of protection to have compared to zero. And that's why we need to make sure that as soon as you have access to a COVID vaccine, any one of the currently approved vaccines, you must take it and follow the public health guidance in your country.